Hi everybody, I'm Jackie Wilkins. How are you today? Today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about something that's been on my mind. That is, when you're working with a horse, when is punishment good and needful, and when is it abuse? It can actually look very much like the same thing when you're getting after a horse about something. Rightful correction and needful correction can look very similar to somebody losing their temper. And I want to explain today what is the difference and when is it abuse, when are we losing our temper, and when are we doing what the horse needs. I think there is a very big key to understanding this, and so I want to share that with you guys today. I need to introduce my co-host here. This is my beautiful Belle. She is my cutting mare. Anybody that knows me knows Belle. She's one of my favorite horses on the planet. We're just gonna sit here and chat. I'm not gonna do anything with her today, but I always feel more comfortable on a horse. So again, what I want to talk about is it can look very similar when you're getting after a horse. And I mean, sometimes you have to get after a horse pretty big, in a pretty dramatic way, with a lot of emotion, with a lot of intensity sometimes. Kind of reminds me, I have a Chris Cox painting, and I love the painting. It's gorgeous, and I love the content of it, and it's called When Horse Whispering Gets Loud. So that's kind of what I'm picturing now when I'm talking about the situation when you're getting after a horse. And I used to tell people, I used to never have a really good way to explain the difference between somebody that's doing the right thing and somebody that's just losing their temper. I used to tell people, well, it depends on your heart, what your feelings are towards that horse. Are you doing what you're doing with good intentions? Are you doing what you're doing to do what's best for the horse? Or are you doing what you're doing just because you're mad and you're getting vengeance? And that answer is mostly true, but to me it just didn't quite go deep enough to really explain this. And I don't know that that answer is 100% true all the time, because I do believe people can have good intentions, but if they don't have the knowledge and the experience, if they don't understand how to communicate with the horse or what they're doing, they can have all the the best intentions in the world and still be doing the wrong thing. So good intentions is not always enough, I don't think, when you're working with horses. So what I want to talk about is how you do it correctly. Is you do not want to punish a horse for emotion. I see a lot of people that punish horses for emotion, and I'm going to get to that in a minute. What you always want to punish a horse for is disrespect. That is the key. That is the difference here between doing it right and wrong. I could literally talk probably for hours about respect. It is absolutely huge. It is absolutely crucial when you're training horses. It's the foundation for your relationship. You are not going to have a beautiful, successful, intimate relationship with your animal unless you have laid down a foundation of respect. It is absolutely crucial. I do plan on doing some more videos about respect, so I'm going to save some of that for some other videos. Today I want to make sure to stay on point with this subject. But I do want people to know, a lot of people don't have any idea when a horse is being disrespectful and what that looks like. So there are three things that horses do when they're being disrespectful. The first thing, and probably the thing that they do the most often, is they come into our space, okay? A horse should never push into us. They should never try to come at us and make us move. That is the way horses show dominance. That is the way they interact with each other in the herd. Whichever horse can make the other horse move is dominant. So anytime a horse throws his body at me, shoves his shoulders at me, or just point blank comes at me, that's a huge sign of disrespect, and something I absolutely will not stand for. And then also in that category would be a horse that wants to bite or kick or do anything aggressive like that. There again, he's coming into your space. So I do not allow a horse to come into my space without permission. The other way that a horse shows disrespect is by not moving when you say move. Again, in a herd of horses, whichever one can move the other one is dominant. So if I ask my horse to move and they refuse, they are not acknowledging my leadership, and they're thumbing their nose up at me. So that's the other way horses show disrespect. And the third way is just by not paying attention to me. A horse needs to be, we're responsible for each other. My horse needs to know right where I'm at, and I need to know right where my horse is at, always. We need to be on each other's mind, and my horse needs to be watching out for me. So, and also paying attention to me to learn what I'm trying to teach him, to acknowledge my leadership. So a horse that is ignoring me, looking the other direction, won't pay any attention to me, that's the third way of showing disrespect. So you always want to get after a horse for showing disrespect. But like I said, what you never want to do is get after a horse for showing emotion. And that's the key, that's the difference. A lot of people are afraid of a horse's emotion. And their anger, a lot of people, when you're angry at a horse, if it's the wrong kind of anger, that always stems from fear. It stems from two different kinds of fears. What people are afraid of when they're around horses is, number one, is getting hurt. People don't want to get hurt. They don't want to physically get hurt, which obviously can happen very quickly with a horse. But the other fear is embarrassment. People don't like it, obviously, when horses make them look like a fool, when horses embarrass them. And embarrassment is actually a form of fear as well. Because embarrassment is, I'm afraid I don't measure up. I'm afraid I look like a dork. I'm afraid I don't fit in with the other people, so forth. So shame and embarrassment is also a form of fear. So when people get afraid, that normally translates into anger, and then they're mad. And then they're mad at their horse for making them feel afraid. And that's when people start getting abusive. A horse that's excited and a ball of energy, that person is saying, just be good, just be quiet, just don't move because I don't want to get hurt. And they're actually condemning the horse's emotions. They're upset with the horse for being excited. Horses, when they're fearful, obviously can hurt people very quickly. And same thing. When horses are fearful, they have a ton of emotion and people get hurt, and so people are afraid of that. But what you never want to do, when I'm teaching my horses, I want them to have the freedom to, number one, have emotion and to be able to express emotion. What I never let them have the freedom to do is to do it disrespectfully. So when I'm getting after a horse, if I'm on a horse that's scared and I'm leading it and it's going crazy and running circles around me, it can run circles around me. I don't care. It can bounce off the walls if it needs to. As long as while it's doing it, it never comes at me. It still moves when I say move, and it's still paying attention to where I'm at. So anytime he crosses the line into disrespect, that's when the punishment starts. And I'm not punishing the horse for having fear. I'm not punishing the horse for being angry. If my horse wants to be angry, he is entitled, and I give him complete freedom. He is allowed to be angry. Now, as a trainer and as his leader, I'm going to use that emotion and show him, okay, when you're angry, let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and get out this aggression, get out this emotion in this training exercise or whatever it might be. We teach our horses how to deal with that emotion and how to get it out. But we never want to stifle it. We never want to try to smash it and contain it and beg for them to be good. We have to help them with their emotion, and we have to give them the freedom to have emotion. When you condemn a horse and punish a horse for having emotions, that's when you break their spirit. That's when you get a horse that gets either more fearful, depressed, anxious, when they're not allowed to express and have emotions. So that's the key when you're getting after your horse. And one more side note I did want to go ahead and mention is emotion is energy. The word motion is actually in the word emotion. Emotion is energy, and especially in horses and in people too, in order to get that out and deal with it, they have to move. They have to physically move. And something that I want people to realize when you're training your horses is that anger is not always a bad thing. In fact, in the Bible, if you read the Bible, there's you'll see very quickly that anger is not a sin. A lot of people assume that anger is always negative, always bad, and always a sin. But that is not the case at all. If you read the Bible, you'll actually find that it talks several times in the New Testament of Jesus being angry. There's a verse where it specifically says he was angry with the Pharisees because they were so hard-hearted. And in the Old Testament, that's full of verses about God being angry. And obviously God can't sin, so obviously anger is not a sin, always. It can lead to sin, but it's not always a sin. And in Ephesians it says, to be angry and sin not. So there again, anger is not always a sin. So when my horse disrespects me, that should anger me. That should produce an emotion in me that fuels me and gives me the energy to deal with it. That should be something that I don't put up with, because I know it's damaging to our relationship, and it's not good for the horse at all. So there should produce a good anger when a horse is disrespectful. Let that fuel you. You know, we give our horses freedom to have emotion. Give yourself freedom to have emotion as well, and learn how to use that. And it will actually give you more empowerment in your training. So don't be afraid of emotion. Again, when anger turns bad, when anger turns to sin, when anger is negative and damaging and abusive, is when it's fueled by fear. So when you're angry with your horse or upset with your horse, you might want to just analyze yourself for a minute and kind of do a double check. What's causing this anger? Is this good anger because of an injustice or because of something that needs to be corrected? Or is this anger because I'm scared, because I'm embarrassed? Is this anger coming from fear? Anytime it's coming from fear, you don't want to go down that path, because that's going to produce a lot of damage in your relationship and with your horse. So anyway, I hope maybe this is kind of giving you some things to think about. I don't know if you've thought about it in that way. I tend to meditate on this stuff all day long, so I come up with all kinds of stuff I'm thinking about. But I do think this is the key and kind of the base of when you're getting after a horse and things are dramatic and it might look harsh, but it's not when you're doing it out of the correct way, when you're doing it, when you're correcting disrespect and not emotion. So anyway, I hope everybody has a good day, and thank you so much for watching.